randomizer community as well. You can find them running Ocarina of Time and Link's Awakening. It looks like we're off. Our runners here are mashing text boxes here in the escape. We're just receiving our telepathic advice from Zelda. We don't spend a whole lot of time digesting that. Our uncle's already heard this message. He's going to speed run faster than us to the escape. We're going to get an opportunity to catch up with him. I don't know how he dies so quickly, though. He's not very good at Zelda, apparently. Here in the escape, though, we have a few things that our runners will try to do to optimize how long it takes them to get through these screens. We don't have the Pegasus boots yet. This would be the fastest thing for us to get around Hyrule. In the meantime, we're just going to have to make up for it with some really fast button mashing. We call this movement technique pumping. You're going to see this happen a few times on our runners' screens in the next, 6 or 7 minutes or so in particular. What our runners want to do is they want to optimize Link's walking animation. Link will walk a certain number of pixels per frame in alternating fashion. He'll walk 2 pixels, then 1 pixel, then 2 pixels, then 1 pixel. The walk animation starts with 2 if you move left or up, and it starts with 1 if you move right or down. And that's just the first frame of the cycle. On average, it's about a pixel and a half every frame, no matter which way you're going, except for diagonal, which is about 1. You'll see our runners take advantage of whenever they're heading in these directions, up or left, they can mash the opposite D-pad directions, left or right if they're going up, or up and down if they're going left, to reset their walk animation. This is pumping. Pumping is really great for taking advantage of lowered movement speed. You'll see in the water, this becomes really important. But our runners are coming up on their first required kill. This is the blue guard. This guy has a key for us. Both of our runners do a spin slash to kill him very close to the door. This is going to be really great because they don't have to chase down the key. Other than that, though, they're going to execute a little bit more pumping and get ourselves closer to Zelda. We'll be out of the castle with her hopefully in less than 6 minutes total, though. We'll have our next opportunity to see a fun little strat here. Cransoon and Zam are both doing a poke spin slash here to get the boomerang, and if they time it right, they're going to throw that boomerang and pull the key through the door with them. You can outrun the key. I found this out recently. I didn't believe that was possible, but yeah, so be careful to make sure that that key does make it to the door before you're through it. We'll have an opportunity to see our runners reducing stair lag. You want to face left or right as you leave a staircase to prevent a stutter step. But more importantly, we have the favorite guard of the entire castle, ball and chain guard. We have 2 different tactics being used against him. You see Zam picked up a pot to throw against him. This is a little bit slower because you have to walk up and come back down. But it does remove 4 of the slashes. Cransoon opted for the 8 slash method. As you can see, there's a little bit of a time difference here. He's a little bit ahead for the Zelda text. All in all, our runners are still neck and neck, though, to be expected in Escape. Working our way back through the Hyrule Castle to get ourselves to the shelf so we can head to the back half. Our runners are going to have pretty much the same RNG to work with as they did before. Same green guard, same blue guard. They won't have to kill the blue guard this time. So hopefully we won't take any damage on the way through. Although some runners do opt to intentionally get themselves down to 1 heart, you can save about half a second or so in the Sanctuary through an exploit I don't really know the true explanation for. I'll leave it to chat if they know how that works, but having the beeping sound for your health meter actually does help with that. Loonslice in chat asking about Cransoon being the favorite. I mean, we've had a lot of upsets in this tournament. We've had a lot of people post their best times ever. Cransoon has a very hefty PB advantage. Just to reiterate, Zam, I'm just going to call him Zam. Zam walked into this tournament with a 2-hour and 14-minute PB. Cransoon with an hour 31. So if that's to be said, that's going to be the difference in favorites probably. But a lot of runners too have also been a little out of practice. I came a little closer to Skarsnik myself. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but Zam would have had to put in a lot of work for this. Coming up ahead, we see an opportunity for our runners to grab a safety heart. Looks like Cransoon passed it, and so did Zam. We'll also get an opportunity to see the Snake RNG. Cransoon getting really rough Snake RNG. They're all in his way. Zam manages to slide past with just 1 boomerang. Catches a little bit of time up with that. and then immediately loses it. Here in the sewers, we get a proper look at pumping. You see Cransoon and Zam both attempting to make a slow, shallow angle upwards. You see as they mash up and left with their D-pad. This allows them to save, quite a lot of time in that section. It's probably the second largest time save for pumping outside of stairs. Yo, shout out to chat for not being dead. You'll also notice in this room that Zam's going through is that you're trying to follow that left edge. The main reason why is because the bats that are just above you where you spawn, or where you enter the room, they do not really go in your way if you take that path. You also saw Cransoon got to skip a text box here. Zam did the same thing. Zelda likes to tell you, hey, you got to go pull that switch. If you are fast and if you push right, leaving that door, you just get to skip the text box completely. Looks like Cransoon had a sub-6 escape. Zam was maybe just a couple of seconds after that. Does get the time save here in Sanctuary, though, which is nice. Habinator asking why we don't hear game audio from one of the runners. We may possibly just have issues with their audio where they're streaming. Keep in mind that sometimes when our restreamers put together the video feed that you see now, they have to work with what they've got. So there may also potentially be just another audio issue. We'll raise that up, but otherwise, enjoy the audio that we do have, the BGM. Our runners are running to Eastern Palace now. I say running, but really this is Link walking. You'll see that Cransoon holds diagonal across this bridge. It looks like Zam does the same thing, because it would actually be a little bit slower to change his walk animation. In that instance, it's better to take the 1 pixel per second movement when you're moving diagonally. Sounds like we have some audio. Thank you, Restream. Our runners are going to take advantage of these staircases here. We talked a little bit about pumping before. This comes into effect and is much more handy as you are on staircases, because not only can you press left or right to, pump one direction, you can actually do both directions at the same time on a staircase. Generally, this is going to be more efficient than most other pumping, and both of our runners get to avoid the blue guard, saving themselves the time of boomeranging in the process. That's pretty awesome. Next up, we have Eastern Palace. Cransoon here has a little bit of RNG to deal with these cannonballs. Looks like Zam has pretty much identical, if not one different. We'll notice that our runners here, Cransoon, for example, is showing the top pot there. It is a little bit faster to grab that. Zam opts for the safety heart instead. Our runners are next heading into the Stalfos room. This is an exciting place. Normally, you'd have 4 Stalfos spawn, but because we know where those spawn points are going to be, we can throw pots at that. At those 2 spots to kill 2 of them immediately. The Stalfos spawn based on where Link is in the room at the point when they do spawn, so we take advantage of some specific positioning to make one of them spawn under a pot, so it doesn't, and then the other outside of the room. Cransoon had a little bit of a fumble with that. Did recover very well, though. Seems to know how to handle the 3 Stalfos strategy. Both of our runners did opt to pick up their safety arrows. This should give them a little bit more security walking into the Armos fight. They probably won't have to stop to pick up more. We are still neck and neck here, folks, within a room. Our runners are next heading to the first damage boost of the game, the Popo damage boost for the big key. Our runners are going to bump into a Popo, which only does half a heart of damage, just below the door. They're going to use the invincibility frames to pick up the pot on the anti-fairies there. And once the invincibility frames expire, they're going to trigger the switch, allowing them to get that big key without having to kill everything in the room. Both of our runners had a little bit of difficulty with it. The optimal strategy only takes a heart and a half of damage, but it's a little hard to squeeze Link onto that spot. Either way, though, they both got it. This saves a fair amount of time, and they are moving on to pick up their bow and head to the back half of Eastern Palace. All in all, pretty good pace from both Zam and Cransoon. Zam does have the disadvantage of his PB, working with him, so it looks like he's put in some work in this. I mean, most of the time when you have a over a 2-hour time speaking from experience. Even the early game stuff is quite a bit slower, so he's doing pretty well to keep up with Cransoon here. We have the Zelda Gamer Room ahead. This is the first instance of Cannonball RNG outside of the entrance. Both of our runners did pretty good with it. However, Zam is very low on hearts and takes a death. That's rough. Zam is going to have to walk all the way back through the dungeon. The nice thing, though, is that we don't have to go through the loop that we did for the big key. Meanwhile, Cransoon is working on Armos Knights. We want to pump 5 arrows into the top right one there, or the top right 2, and then from there, you're just pretty much spamming those arrows. Cransoon gets a perfect kill on that. Hey, in chat, I'm asking about taking up this run. I absolutely do recommend it, Math Girl. This is a fantastic run to learn. Plus, it helps in any other version of this game you want to play. If you want to pick up the randomizer, you're going to be really good at it playing NMG. Looks like Cransoon exiting Eastern Palace right around 11 minutes. He's going to go pick up the boots. The boots are going to be our favorite speed technique of this run. We're going to use these boots for pretty much everything. Remains to be seen if Cransoon's going to pick up the tree rupees or the rupees behind Sahasrar's hut. I believe he goes to the tree rupee route, but we'll see in just a moment. And it looks like Cransoon opts to skip the Sahasrar rupees. He's going to go pick up a bunch of rupees from trees later so he can get to Palace of Darkness. We do see him doing the spin speed. He gets that on his second try. How that works is when you have the Pegasus boots, you simply charge up a spin speed, or spin slash, getting my terms mixed up. If you release that spin slash and dash on the very next frame, the game gets confused and puts Link in a state where it stores his running animation, but he's currently walking. So all you have to do is touch a staircase, and then it resumes the dashing speed while you're walking. It's really useful, so we're going to see them use that a bunch. Right now, it looks like Zam is working on Armos Knights. Had a little bit of a mishap with the fast kill. Seems to be recovering just fine, but is going to run pretty low on arrows here. With that, he gets it on the last one. That's an important time save because sword slashing, even with just 1 arrow's worth of damage, is quite a time loss. All in all, looks like that was about 1.5 to 2 minutes time loss for Zam. Let's see if Zam can catch up at all. Cransoon did pick up the book. Now that we have the literacy, we can head our way to the desert. We get, I don't know, Nintendo is really great about this dungeon design. In desert, you just get a ton of places to use your newly found Pegasus boots. A lot of backtracking. If we could have the mirror anywhere in the game, this is probably where I'd probably want the most. Meanwhile, we get to see if Zam is going to pick up these back rupees behind Sahasrar, though Zam also skips them, maybe electing to find them somewhere else in the game world, or potentially also learn the tree rupee route. Be exciting to see. Does manage to get a spin speed on the first try. That was nice. Now, this arrow count may produce a few issues for Zam going into the Lamolus fight. Our runners really want to have as many arrows as possible walking into this dungeon, or at the very least into the boss fight. It takes 4 arrows for each portion of Lamolus to go down. We have 3 total, so a minimum of 12, but let's be real, folks. This is the most random boss in the game. Our runners are going to want to have a lot of extra arrows just in case. We got to see a nice poke dash out of Cransoon there in Desert to get through that sand monster. We're also going to see him nudge the torch here when he does his dash. That allows him to get the bonk off the wall instead of off of the torch itself. You save a little bit of time with your positioning doing that. Zam attempted the spin speed on the way back and just didn't get the stair activation the first time. Did save the time from doing it, though. Cransoon walking into the first kill room of the of Desert Palace. We'll see how he does with the Cannonball RNG. It looks like he squeezed through. Wow, that was really close. That's your best case scenario, so that worked out pretty well for him. He's having a pretty fast desert so far. Zam with a very nice water dash. That's actually kind of hard to do if you don't line it up right. You'll notice that our runners in general are going to avoid walking through any tall grass, any water. All of these slow down your movement speed. Dashing is 4 frames per pixel, or 4 pixels per frame. Got that backwards. But it's important to preserve that for as long as possible. So you'll see our runners are going to avoid, changing directions when they dash. They're going to try to line up their dashes so they can go as far as possible every time. Cransoon lighting a torch on his way out. I'm not sure if he's leaving a message for Zam on his way through. He doesn't attempt the desert spin speed. I don't blame him. That's a very dangerous spin speed to get off of the staircase leaving the first half of the dungeon. All the while, though, we'll get to see our first opportunity for a key dash on Cransoon's screen. As it turns out, Link's dashing 4 pixels per frame. It just so happens that lines up perfectly with his collision detection, which is once every 4 frames. So if you were to line up perfectly, say, with the wall and the door, you can pretty much get Link to open the door and dash through on the same frame without bonking against it. Any of the other 75% of pixels out there will have him bonk, wasting time. You can also take advantage of the fact that most items in the room, or most tiles in the room, are aligned on a 4-pixel coordinate grid. So if you line up with torches or with pretty much anything on the floor, you're almost always going to key dash. He pulled it off perfectly there, though. Getting through a couple of more difficult rooms. About to fight Lamolus now. Lamolus is like I said before, the most random boss in the game. The first spawn locations in the first cycle are predetermined, but their flight paths are not. And then everything is random from there, from how long they stay in the air, for which direction they go, and where they actually spawn. As I said before, it takes 4 arrows to kill each one. Cransoon's going to try to do those shots as close to the head as possible. This allows him to spam the arrows, as you can only have 1 arrow on the screen at a time. This is a very important thing to remember for later. Cransoon wrapping it up in about 3 or 4 cycles. I think that was 4. Zam not too far behind, about to enter the back half of Desert Palace. Cransoon's next step is to head to Tower of Hera. We're going to see which way he takes to get there. A couple of popular strats to use. I think he'll probably go fake flippers, though. That's my best guess. Zam pulling off a great key dash there, and it looks like Cransoon gets the Sandman dash. Very nice. That's a very precise thing you gotta do, because that Sandman underneath you does not take very long to spawn. Looks like Zam got through the second kill room pretty well there. Pretty close to getting to Lamolus now. Should be pretty good on health as well. You're going to see Cransoon do the fake flippers exploit here in a moment. This is one of the minor glitches that is allowed. We use this bush to line up to. We're going to move diagonal to the right and up. And then if you were to jump into the water without flippers, oh, he got real close there with that Zora. You can, if you take any damage when you're in fake flipper state, it actually soft locks the game. So that was a very tense moment there. But so if you were to screen transition right after you jump into the water, you got like 1 frame basically to put an input in before the game says, hey, you're in the water, get out. Because you screen transition, the game believes that you did have flippers in the first place, so it just assumes you do. And that's going to save us about 6 to 8 seconds on an average overworld movement. Zam's getting some pretty unlucky jumps here from the Lamolus, trying to get some arrows in. It's also wise to do the sword slashes as you see Zam's doing, but we're really low on health. 2 hits from those rocks or 1 hug is going to be doing him in. Still has plenty of arrows, can get the last hit. Yeah, very nice. Zam pulling off a clutch kill here in Lamolus. Didn't take too long either. That was actually a pretty quick Lamolus fight. I would definitely say he recovered very well. Cransoon picking up the mirror, going to be heading to the top of Hera. We'll get another example of spin speed here. Hoping that the flying cabbages and squirrels don't interrupt them too much. We'll also get our first opportunity at a quick warp. Looks like Cransoon's going for it. The way that quick warp works is you can make the game do the warp animation a little bit faster if the camera is panned in a certain position. It's based on a Y pixel placement of Link. well, the camera itself, and then Link influences that by where he's placed. In order to get that quick warp every time on the first portal in Death Mountain, you would want to approach it from the portal from the right side. You got to see Cransoon used a menu buffer in order to line himself up correctly to disengage the spin speed. Zam having a little bit of difficulty with the fake flippers. Let's see if we can get the lineup. You can line up against the wall there, and then you get another try at it. Seems to be failing to hold right after he jumps in. This is rough because at this point, it's definitely already lost time. On the bright side, did not soft lock. We were 2 for 2 on that. Here in Tower of Hera, Cransoon is working on the tile room. Seems to have picked up and thrown every single pod in the room. Haven't seen that in a while, but nothing wrong with doing that. The only thing we can do to really speed up this room at all is when the last tile spawns, we can destroy that tile right as it starts moving. Other than that, though, there's really nothing to do in this room. A lot of people use this room as a coffee break or a bathroom break, even if they can get themselves standing on the pegs when the switch is flipped. Zam will make his ascent up Death Mountain, while Cransoon doing some pretty nice bone dodges there. Avoiding damage. This is really nice, though, because if Cransoon can make it all the way to the top without taking any damage, Cransoon may choose not to use the crystal switch to get some extra safety for the boss. This could save him a little bit of extra time. Here in the Beetle Room, opting to throw 2 pots. Does not pick up the arrows on the way through, probably just trying to save as much time as possible. Despite the death in Ethereum Palace, Zam is doing pretty well to get back into the race here. This is altogether a pretty good light world, that death considered. Cransoon's going to show us our first bomb jump here. So he uses a dash cancel to line up here. He's going to dash and bonk against the wall. Doing so gives the bomb jump a lot more flexibility. Normally you would have to be within 2 frames of the edge of the ledge and then drop your bomb, and you would just not have to do anything. By bonking into the wall, you extend that range to 6 pixels, making it much easier to do. Cransoon does walk past the safety hearts, since he only has 1 heart missing. He does have the switch flip, though, in case he does have some kind of mishap here against Moldorm. Moldorm is our favorite wiggly worm friend. He takes 6 hits to defeat. We could do much more damage later on in the game, but you're seeing Cransoon relying on dashes to make himself invincible to Moldorm as he runs through him. Had a really great Moldorm fight, using a sword slash to finish him off. Looks like Zam tried to go for the boom dash. That boom dash is not something that's easy to do. It's 3 frame perfect inputs, and you also have to be dashing a different direction than you throw the boomerang. Potato and Chad asking about what happened to Zam. We had a death in Eastern Palace shortly after. Well, it was in the dark room, I believe. Oh, no, it was in the room before the Red Igor room. Cransoon's going to make his way to the Master Sword. In the meantime, one thing we're going to see out of Cransoon is after he leaves his cave, he's going to grab the tree to the left of it. If you didn't know, money really does grow on trees here in Hyrule, and it also grows on the death of our enemies. So that's something that we're going to see here. It's a theme that's recurring. If you've killed 4 enemies and you have taken damage, you will actually get blue rupees for pulling that tree and a couple of others. If you kill 4 enemies without taking damage, you will get red rupees from the next tree you pull. I don't know if I saw him kill a pickle or anything else there, so I think that may have been his 2nd enemy with that bird and the 3rd with the crab monster. Remains to be seen, but it's important that Cransoon make sure he gets 4 before he pulls that tree. Otherwise, he's going to spend some time farming kills. In the meantime, Zam has hit the safety switch. We have not a lot of health to work with. We may end up doing a backup strategy for the bomb jump, but looks like he's going straight for it. He does have enough health, but it's going to be very narrow. getting really close there with that fire on the staircase. Does manage to squeeze through and gets the bumper skip very nicely. Looks like Zam's been practicing. I mean, these are a lot of things that you don't typically see out of people with PBs that, you know, are north of, say, 2 hours and 10 minutes, 2:15. I was in that group not too long ago myself, and yeah, a lot of these things are not easy tricks. Zam looking to get Moldorm out of the way here, having a little bit of trouble with the patterns that Moldorm's giving, but hasn't taken any damage from him yet. Has 4 out of the 6 slices. If he can get that last one, then we're in business. He's going to opt to use the sword. Well, I don't know exactly what the technique of it is. You can hang on to ledges, basically, by outstretching your sword in the opposite direction and holding away from the pit. Moldorm will knock you towards the pit, but he can't actually knock you off until you release that sword spin. Very handy technique. You'll also see a lot of runners use that spin to line up their bomb jumps as well, because the same thing applies there. If you want to get within 2 pixels, you can do a sword spin to guarantee that. Cransoon doing the backup rupee pull in Hyrule Castle Courtyard. Looks like he was a enemy short, but he did manage to find 4 on the way, so he has recovered from that. It's an interesting tree pull to see, though. You don't see that from a lot of runners. I think it may have been because of the pickle leading into Lost Woods. That was unusual. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. I believe that he didn't kill the pickle that was on the way to Lost Woods. Meanwhile, Zam will get their rupee pull unless they're going to do it elsewhere. Yep, we have the rupee pull route from both of our runners. That's interesting to see. With the gold guards in Hyrule Castle, Cransoon opting for the optimal strat, trying to do sword beams and sword spins alongside a bow and arrow here too. He dashes through those blue guards. There's an important reason why. Our runners want to preserve a prize pack for later on in the run. There's a resource out there, I'm not sure exactly who made it, but it shows a graphical representation of every prize pack. Enemies, when they die, they have a 50-50 chance for the most part, with the exception of 1 or 2 prize packs, of dropping a certain item in a pool. And this prize pack will increment to the next item every time you get a prize pack drop. So if there's no drop, no big deal. Dashing through an enemy never drops an item, so that's why we prefer to do so from here on out. Now, if they do this optimally, they won't kill any blue guards that we see in the castle here. The regular guards you see in Cransoon's room are not a problem. That's a different prize pack, but you'll see the different type of armor. And if they do so and avoid killing most of the mini Helmasaurs in Palace of Darkness, they have a really great chance of getting a fairy drop at a really critical juncture in Turtle Rock right before the Poke Room. Pokies also have the fairy drop as well, so we just want to make sure we're not getting those 2 drops, because it only takes 2 in that prize pack to get that fairy. So we'll see how that works out for our runners. It would be very nice if they can get it at that time. Looks like Zam did pick up the mushroom. I did not see that out of Cransoon. May have skipped it entirely. Part of the fairy drop route that we do is for that exact reason. Zam does get the first rupee pull for the red rupees. Both of our runners are very close to having enough for Palace of Darkness. Zam will need 2 more, but can easily find that before we get to that point. I get the feeling Cransoon is probably about to explain the exact same thing we were just talking about. But he is running a race, so let's not force him to type in chat. Yeah, I mean, we don't advise anybody to drink and drive. I definitely don't advise you to run and type. That's probably not the safest thing ever. But Cransoon here walking into the Aghanim fight. Aghanim won because we're going to have a rematch with him later. He has a 5-attack cycle. The first attack is always reflectable. We're always going to do damage with it if we hit it. The second, third, and fourth attacks in his cycle have a 50-50 chance of being a reflective attack or a blue ball attack. Cransoon gets 2 in his first cycle. That's rough. The 5th attack is going to be a lightning attack. We just got to wait that out. So the best case scenario is you don't get any blue balls. That is possible. We don't like blue balls in this community. Jokes aside, puns aside. The worst case scenario, if you hit every guaranteed shot, is 15. So that would be 3 per cycle. It's very rough. I'm not going to say who it was in this tournament that got it, but rest in peace. That stinks. Would not want to be in that position. Cransoon really escaping with only 2, though. That's fantastic. With that, Cransoon is going to enter the Dark World just over 30 minutes on a pretty good pace. That's definitely a commendable pace for any runner. Zam's not that far behind either. I mean, pretty much the difference of that death earlier. This is a good example of when it's good to have certain items out. Zam is using some arrows to make some of these guards a little bit easier. Zam may end up regretting that later, though, because Palace of Darkness, we're going to need 4 arrows. If he doesn't hold on to at least 4, or grab some extra arrows from this room, could end up a little bit shy of where we wanted. Perfect. Okay, that 5 is an important arrow to pick up. Well, with Cransoon getting just 2 blue balls, I'm hoping the best for Zam here. It would really be lousy to be behind in the race and then get, like, 12. Just keep in mind, chat, the 15 blue balls, that's losing 15 straight coin flips. That's pretty hard to do. You got to see an interesting thing on Cransoon's screen. He switches to the mirror at the last possible second before activating the Kiki cutscene here. Kiki here being the monkey that opens up Palace of Darkness. We needed 110 rupees for Kiki. Turned around after the pause buffer while selecting the mirror. This allowed Kiki to jump on your back, which actually does save a little bit of time. One thing we'll want to see out of Zam here with the Aghanim fight is we want to knock Aghanim towards the center of the arena. While Aghanim's spawn patterns or warp patterns are random, it's on average going to be fastest if he starts from the center of the room instead of crossing the room. Cransoon's making his way throughout Palace of Darkness now, pretty much just picking up some keys, going to go grab the big key. We're going to see a really fun trick in a moment, the hammer jump, as we like to call it. The first pixel-perfect bomb jump that we're going to encounter. We'll have another one in Ice Palace. So far, it looks like Zam only has 2 blue balls. Very close to the end of the fight as well. May end up emerging unscathed without an extra cycle. And pulls it off. Very nice. So both of our runners had the same RNG with Aghanim overall and handled the fight exceptionally. They both have acquired all the rupees they'll need for Kiki. So this is moving pretty smoothly, and there's about a 3-minute difference between the 2 of them based on timers as we left the light world. On Cransoon's side, we're going to pick up a key here, and we'll also get to see what strategy he takes for the hammer jump. A lot of runners will opt to use pause buffers. He doesn't switch to bombs yet, so I'm assuming that's what he's going to do. You have the menu anyway to switch to the bomb, so you can kind of use that to line link up. He also throws the second bomb over, and whoa, Cransoon with the 1 pause buffer bomb jump, and it was basically free because he had to switch back to the mirror anyway. That's about as good as it gets. You have to use mirrors. That's as optimal as it gets. I'm floored. That's the best hammer jump I've seen in a long time. Fingers crossed here that Zam's going to get one as good as that, but that's a tall order. That's not easy to do. With that, Cransoon is possibly on gold split watch. I don't know. That was pretty close to as good as it gets. It's hard to say exactly where Zam's largest time losses have been when it comes to his PB. Zam may have PB'd since the leaderboard was updated. That's possible. That being said, right now on a fantastic pace. If this keeps up, we're on a really nice PB watch for Zam today. We have a question in chat about RNG with bosses. It makes a lot of difference depending on what boss it is. Like, for example, Aghanim is not the same every time, and it's not the same for each runner. You may find that in older versions of like the Zelda 3 randomizer, but I think they removed even that. The point is, it's literally 50-50 coin flip on each attack of those, like 2, 3, and 4 of that cycle. And Ganon himself actually also has differences in his RNG. He has 4 different places in the room that he generally warps to, and on top of that, a whole handful of other things that vary based on variables that can change depending on how you did in Ganon's Tower, as well as how you handle the fight itself. Cransoon here, though, is very close to his Helmasaur King fight. Helmasaur King here is going to require 17 hammer hits to destroy the shell. You can also do it with 4 bombs if you're a madman or a madwoman, respectively. Helmasaur King has 3 different attacks. You can swipe the tail, as you saw there. Cransoon's getting very good RNG so far. He can also do a fireball attack, which you just saw there, and he can charge at you. Once you're in the rage phase, you can do all 3. Cransoon with 1 heart left needs to be careful here. Pulls it off. A little nervous for him there. Jesus is right, Cransoon. I'm right there with you. One thing that Cransoon may have been able to do differently in that fight is the fireball that spawns, you can actually despawn it if you wait for it to completely appear on the floor and then destroy the mask. If you can do that at the same time, you'll be able to save yourself a lot of time and effort from having to dodge. Zam pulling off attempting the bomb jump, I believe he may have been 1 pixel too high there. Getting trolled a little bit by the mini Helmasaur. It looks like he's going to opt to try to do the backup strategy. May end up going for the bomb jump from the north side instead. If not, though, he'll be heading downstairs and around to get a key and just go the long way. It looks like he's going to do just that. We don't see Zam picking up any excessive rupees here. It looks like we're still going to get the rupees from Thieves Town. Or from Village of Outcasts, I mean. Speaking of Village of Outcasts, that's our next destination for Cransoon. Cransoon is going to take the long way around through this maze, of course. We're going to get a nice hammer dash out of him at the bridge near where Link's house would be. And we're also going to pick up our favorite friend, the duck. Meanwhile, Zam here is in the dark maze. This is hopefully seen less in runs. Only here because the bomb jump failed. It looks like Zam was very close in the lineup. He actually had Link correct based on where the bomb was, but the bomb was in the wrong position. With that, though, Zam is ready to make his push on Helmasaur King. Cransoon, in the meantime, not too far away from picking up the shovel and flutes, respectively. Now, you'll notice that Cransoon mirrors in a very specific spot. He's trying to get the quick warp there, and he gets it. That's a really hard quick warp to get because mirror quick warps just require you to be in the exact right pixel. Barring, of course, any unforeseen things with the camera. That one's a really precise one to get. I'm impressed that he pulled that off. And not only that, but moving just straight upwards allows him to dig to the right of Link anytime, if you don't press left or right. So he gets in 1 dig as well. That was a very clean pickup for the shovel. That was good. Cransoon's also going to go after a spin speed here. This one's important because we're going to have to pass Usain Bolt, the fastest triathlete guard in Hyrule. If you don't do so, it's very hard to outrun that guard. You basically have to have a dash started at the right time. Moving on, Zam is going to encounter the turtle room. I didn't get to talk about this before. We have a few very friendly turtles. They just want a hug. Unfortunately, that does a lot of damage to us. Zam pulling off a really good sword spin move through that room. That's about as close to optimal as it gets. And it looks like Cransoon did pick up the mushrooms, so we're going to get the powder out of him here. This is a great safety strat for a race. I'd recommend any runner to do this unless they think they can get through the entire game without having to worry about it. In the meantime, though, we have Helmasaur King from Zam here. He's got 5 hits on that shell. 10 now. 15. And he's a little too early with that with destroying the face mask. If he had waited just a moment later, he could have despawned that fireball and got extra swipes on him. He's running a little low on health, though. He can only really take 2 hits here. Zam taking an unfortunate death in Palace of Darkness. That's rough. That's going to cost at least a few minutes. That's going to be very difficult to recover from. Math Girl in chat asking about frame counters. It's not strictly required or anything. Some runners, we're generally going to ask, top times to have like a frames per second counter if you're going to run emulator. But on regular hardware, no, it doesn't. It's not required. Zam may just want the total frame counter just for personal convenience. Some people like to have that. I would like that myself, but I don't use the same emulator as he does. Cransoon here is working his way through Thieves Town. Thieves Town is a pretty fast, straightforward dungeon. We're just going to take a big old loop. 3 rights makes another right, and we're going to grab that big key. After that, we're just going to head to the back. We're going to bomb open a hole and hopefully have the best scripted fight of our lives. Cransoon could certainly use that to pad his lead here. Meanwhile, Zam has very quickly returned to the turtle room. As long as we don't take any damage in here, we should be pretty good to get a good fight against Helmasaur King. You also see Zam using the hammer very effectively. The hitboxes for this hammer is very weird, very wonky, so it's not too hard to accidentally flip those turtles back over and end up taking damage. Cransoon walking through the Hellway now, getting some very strange RNG. Having to make some adjustments on the fly. May end up being happy that they picked up the powder, actually. Meanwhile, Zam getting the refight against Helmasaur King has full health. In a good position to get through this. Might be a little... There we go. Got the fireball despawn. That's a really important thing to do if you're going to get that 17th hit in. This also, because he didn't take one more hit, is going to give him a little bit more time to buffer through his attacks here. We just need a couple more slashes. In a little bit of trouble again. We need to be very careful here. And pulls it off. Zam with the Helmasaur King victory. Hopefully, now that we've finished Helmasaur King, this will be the time when Zam picks up powder, because it looks like Zam, if has a pretty consistent rest of the game, should be able to get a great PB here. Meanwhile, Cransoon taking great advantage of the powder in the Hellway to heal. Looks like we're going to be avoiding the powdering by the... Well, I don't know if we call this a fair maiden, if we call this a fair blind, if blind is wearing a skin suit. That has not been answered in the lore. But as we pick up the fair maiden, quote-unquote, we're going to grab a key on the way and get our Titan's Mitts, which is basically the reason we're here in the first place. We would otherwise come here later. Looks like Cransoon accidentally mapping there. We generally never want to open up the map in this game, so I'm sure he feels a little frustrated with himself there. Cosmos in chat asking about TWWHD. That's the Wind Waker HD. Cransoon walking into the blind fight. This is, like we said before, a scripted fight. If you do this exactly the same every time, you're going to get the same patterns every time. So Cransoon's trying to get as many hits on the head as soon as possible in this fight. The earlier you do it, the less RNG you got to deal with. Well, not RNG, but the less weird patterns. The 4th fireball attack from every head will actually track Link, so Cransoon did really great there. The optimal kill is a little bit left of the light there, but we just had a little bit of a weird input latency, or something with the spin didn't connect. But otherwise, would have had a literally perfect fight otherwise. Cransoon did really good to walk through that. We're going to see him head to Skullwoods next. First, though, we need to get our Hot Cheeto Sword. The Tempered Sword, very important for the rest of this game. Zam's going to pick up the flute. Now that we have the flute, this is likely where we're going to see the powder. I think after that Helmasaur death, Zam is almost certainly going to grab powder right away. It'd be pretty strange not to. Although if Zam does feel comfortable with Thieves Town and Skull Woods, there's no reason he couldn't get it after that, in which case it would actually be about an 8-second time save over doing it now. So long, Usain Bolt. Eat your heart out. Good luck chasing after us at this state. Now, typically when somebody would be grabbing Bugnet and Bottle, they would be doing so right now. Zam would usually not walk past that, so I believe he is forsaking that. That'll be interesting to see what ends up happening with that. Though it's not a bad idea to just get powder. It's just a little bit safer to have Fairy Revival. Looks to me that he is going after that powder, though. We're going to get the best deal in Hyrule. So many other people in Hyrule and in the Sacred Realm, also known as the Dark World, are going to extort us in this game. For example, Kiki asks for $110 to follow us on Instagram, and then just to open up a door for us. I mean, holding the door you'd think would be a little bit less expensive than that. But Cransoon getting a gigantic sword upgrade, quite literally a doubling, for 10 rupees. That's fantastic. Meanwhile, we're going to make sure that we pick up rupees going to the blacksmith and from the blacksmith. We need 500 in order to buy the most expensive flippers in existence. Also getting a nice fence dash, a recovery fence dash out of Cransoon. Give him props for that in chat, please. That's an important trick. That's the most important trick in the game. Come on, don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Zam going through the north portal of Kakariko. You can actually get a quick warp on that one if you take the bottom left corner of that warp pad. Meanwhile, Cransoon's about a dungeon ahead, if you want to call it that. Skullwoods is a very fast dungeon. Playing casually, you might get extremely confused trying to figure out where you're supposed to go here. We know exactly where we need to be, though. We can walk straight to the entrance that has the big key. We have a Gibdo room here. We're going to have to pull a statue onto Switch. It's much faster to push, but we only have a small window to do so. Seems to have no problems getting through that room. Doesn't even trigger the Floor Master, which means he got through there very fast. Shoutouts to Blonde Bunny on Zam's screen. Zam's not too far from getting his blind fight out of the way. Going to have to go pick up a Fair Maiden in the process. Cransoon, however, is going to do another bomb jump here to get the Fire Rod. Opting for the dash strat. That bonk strat is actually kind of hard to pull off for how tight of a window that gap is to move in. But opts to fall down the hole, which is the fastest way to return, at the cost of 1 HP. Looks like both of our runners are going to be powdering here. Cransoon a little behind Zam overall on that one, but Cransoon will likely do so in the first... in the room that is 2 rooms before Mothula, where there's a bunny beam. It's a tight window, but he's probably going to want the health for this fight. Yo, Cransoon getting the key dash in Skull Woods. That's actually kind of hard because you have to rely on RNG to get that as well. We'll see how he does with these Gibdos in this Gibdo Hellway. This is kind of a weird place to dash through, but gets a very nice Hellway. Doesn't have to kill too many of those Gibdos. That's important. Also, not having any trouble with the mini Moldorms in the Bunny Beam room. Gives him a pretty easy heal. You may notice he avoided killing the mini Helmasaur there. That's because we still have a chance at that prize pack. We have not seen that fairy drop from him yet. Oh, and Cransoon gets grabbed. This is a Japanese 1.0 exclusive glitch in play here, folks. In Versions 1.1 and 1.2, a Floor Master cannot pick you up when you drop through a gap. Cransoon getting really unlucky there. That's rough. He is probably very upset right now. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we see in just a couple of seconds him in the chat complaining about it, because I would too. Well, this will give Zam a little bit of time to catch back up. Cransoon getting a nice poke dash into the block there. If you do that right, you can get 2 hits, and he finishes up the Mothula fight really quick. That's a fantastic Mothula. As we see Cransoon in chat mentioning, he was on a 30-second PB pace, but hey, Cransoon, that doesn't mean it's over yet. You still got a lot of time you can potentially save with some fantastic execution going on ahead. You're definitely in the 130 range for a reason. Meanwhile, Zam is doing his blind fight. Having a good first phase so far. Seems to have good positioning for phase 2 and is having an optimal fight so far. Remains to be seen if we can wrap this up without taking any damage. Some great dodges and managed to pull that off. Zam not having to have the bug and bottle for a reason. Clearly has practiced the blind fight. Despite the really fast boss kill there, Cransoon did lose some time on that split because of that Floor Master grab. Cransoon is now going to head to grab his flippers and his Quake medallion. We get to take advantage of a really useful warp here at the castle gate. Now that Aghanim has ripped his way from the Dark World to the Light World, or vice versa, whatever the lore explanation for that is, we now have a gate at Hyrule Castle that will put us in a great position to grab both of these items in one run. It's very important that our runners do this in this order. The reason why is because we want to use just a simple mirror to grab both items rather than coming back this way twice. Zam's going to grab his Zora rupees while Cransoon is on his way to pay the man for the flippers that we're really only going to get a little bit of use out of. You'll notice that Cransoon dashes and bonks against the wall there. That's actually for a very specific reason. Once that Quake gets thrown out of the pond by the Quake monster here, we can get a quick warp by simply moving up and then using the mirror. We're in a perfect position for it every time. Quick warps, by the way, save, I think it's 22 frames per, or it might be 34 frames, but it's about half a second or so every time you do it. So it's a really great thing to do. It's pretty much free as long as you know where it is. Another thing you're going to notice on Cransoon's screen is there's a little bit of flexibility about where the deep water and the shallow water starts. He's going to take good advantage of this to just get one smooth dash all the way up to Zora King. Zam has acquired the Cheeto Sword. Now that we have some tempered sword damage, we're going to make our way to Skull Woods, and being that that's a pretty fast dungeon, Zam could make some time back up in the split. Cransoon doing a pretty good job to dodge some of these enemies and also gets a health refill, but takes a hit going into that whirlpool. Thanks to not having to do fake flippers again, we don't have to worry about taking damage in the water. Cransoon getting some rough luck with his whirlpool, some bad momentum movement, kind of pushing him back into the whirlpool. This has happened to me a lot myself, so it's not something that's, you know, easy to avoid. With that, Cransoon walks into Ice Palace. Ice Palace is an important dungeon for a couple of reasons for our runners. For one, we're going to need this if you are the sort of person who's going to pick up gold sword or silver arrows. You're going to need this dungeon anyway for the Pyramid Fairy. But much more importantly, this is a very dangerous place for our runners. We have a absolutely critical bomb jump to do here. We're also going to have to watch out for our magic. Our magic is, well, depending on what strats you know, you pretty much have to have full magic going into Cold Stare, the boss of the dungeon. Now, if you don't have full magic, you can still get around this. If you have full health, you can use sword beams and a lesser-known, tactic with a fire rod to destroy the shell of Cold Stare at the end of the dungeon. It's a pretty narrow window, though. I mean, if you don't have full health walking into it, you might be leaving this dungeon to go pick up more magic. Cransoon, they're having a little bit of difficulty with that bomb. That's no big deal, though. He's got plenty. He does have 2 to work with. He's going to use one and pick one up here. And both of these Stalfos Knights should give him some pretty good drops, but he's going to skip right past them. Looks like he's going to try to get this in 2 tries. Everybody's favorite conveyor belt room, of course. Meanwhile, it looks like Zam is heading towards the back half of Skull Woods. Cransoon is going to hover this gap. Let's see if he can pull this off. Oh, he gets the hover, but the fire bar says no. What a madman, a mad genius. Hey, I still count that as a successful hover. I mean, even if the fire bar decided he had different plans, I'm just floored. That's not the only time that we can see hovering in this run, though. Some runners will even attempt to do it for the bomb jump in the Palace of Darkness. You don't really save much time doing that, but it looks really cool. We might see Cransoon do this again in Moldorm 2 in Ganon's Tower right before the end of the game. Zam getting a really nice magic drop. I don't believe I saw a fairy drop from that mini Helmasaur, so he may still have a chance of getting that favorable fairy drop later on in Eternal Rock. But he is walking into the Mothula fight, gets a poke, but doesn't get the dash, unfortunately. We want to avoid using sword beams here, because that's going to do a lot less damage. All the same, we have not taken any damage yet until poking in, or bumping into Mothula there. If we can get Mothula off the corner here, he should be in good shape. Meantime, he pulls it off with one heart left, making us very nervous here in the comms booth. Cransoon here doing his Cold Stare fight, getting a very good start to the fight, getting bumped into. He is in rough shape right now, though, because he cannot take a single hug. It can only take one ice falling, but emerges unscathed. That was also very tight. These runners give me a heart attack over here, but they will both advance to their next dungeons. Cransoon pulling off the Cold Stare kill, that could have been very costly, because if you die there, you need to have magic to get back into the dungeon. You just used all your magic. Would have been very tough to recover from, so that should put him in a pretty good spot to have a commanding lead here. Zam only one dungeon behind, though. Could catch up with any number of deaths or mistakes being made throughout the rest of the game here. We're going to see Zam pick up the Quake and Flippers next. This could be a place where we could see some divergence. There's no reason that you strictly have to go to Ice Palace next, although the vast majority of runners will. Some people do opt to go to Misery Mire first, simply because they can, well, if they were to go get Ether right now, simply because they can use the Cane of Samaria to avoid having to do a bomb jump. I believe Zam's going to be able to do the Ice Palace bomb jump, though, so I'm pretty sure he's going to take this same route as Cransoon does here. One thing you may see if somebody fails Ice Palace, the boss kill for Cold Stare, is they would typically go right to Swamp Palace immediately after, so they can get the refill of health and magic after they finish the boss. Claymore asking in chat about whether or not we're going to see half magic out of these runners. I don't believe Cransoon's going to do it, and I don't have any reason to think Zam would either. But if either of these runners would, it would probably be Zam. Either way, though, I think it's a little unlikely. We probably would have saw that with picking up Tempered Sword, because there's no reason not to grab it then if you're going to. Looks like Zam got the quick warp, no problem, and Cransoon has drained the dam, also known as filling the dam here in Swamp Palace, and has entered the Swamp Palace. So we're going to see a pretty straightforward dungeon out of him there. Swamp Palace, not a whole lot to talk. Wow. Zam getting the strangest thing I've ever seen with a Zora, knocking the Zora onto the cliff. I don't think I've ever seen that happen before, so... Force pushed him on there. I don't know what happened there, but that's a first for me. But as I was saying, Cransoon in Swamp Palace gets a little bit of a breather here. This is a pretty easy dungeon. This is intended to be the second dungeon of the Dark World, although you can really do a lot of different dungeon ordering if you want to. Because we have the Tempered Sword, we have a lot of health and damage to work with here. This is a good dungeon to kind of relax a little bit, have a little bit less of a challenge, but it's also important not to get complacent here. Yeah, I was a little awestruck by that. You can't get complacent in Swamp Palace, though, because this is a place where you can lose a lot of time just kind of like bleeding out from 1,000 tiny little cuts. You know, little time losses here and there from taking damage, from, you know, bumping into things. Very important not to lose your time here. That being said, Zam's going to ignore some pickles here and head right into Ice Palace. Meanwhile, Cransoon doing the longest fetch quest of our run. Just going to grab that key, hit that switch, and walk all the way back around. Nobody likes doing that. Unfortunately, we have to. We will get to see a couple of unique techniques being used here in Swamp Palace. I'm pretty sure that Cransoon probably uses the statue lineup off the big key chest to get the nice hook dash clip, or the hook shot clip to grab a pot through some railing. That would be the ideal thing to see out of him there. We may also see a hook dash in the room after the big chest to pick up a pot from behind a statue instantaneously. We'll explain that more when we see it. Zam, meanwhile, is heading to the Ice Palace bomb jump. We'll get to see if we have a bomb jump out of him today. All right, looks like we get a dash cancel set up here for the bomb jump. The lineup looked pretty good. I think Link was just a pixel too high or too low based on where he was positioned initially. That's going to be a little bit too high again. He does have 2 more bombs after this attempt, though. Gets the bomb jump, slides off the edge. That's frustrating. This is his last attempt before he dies, so he can still get through this. Just got to watch out for that fire bar. Opting to take the damage boost. Zam here making things really tight. Hoping that he can find a anti-fairy on his way to Cold Stare, because taking any damage at this point is deadly. No luck with the hard drops. That's unfortunate. Does have a magic opportunity, but we're going to have more magic to refill anyway. Not a whole lot going on Cransoon's side, having just a pretty standard back half of Swamp Palace. There's not a whole lot to talk about in this dungeon, so part of the reason I'm focusing on Zam here. But Cransoon is fast approaching the Argus fight. We'll get to see if he attempts the very swag 1 cycle strat, or I'm sorry, 0 cycle strat. That's very difficult to do, so it remains to be seen. But in the meantime, Zam Getting really close there. He may give this anti-fairy a hug and make this all worthless, but pulls it off. Okay, we're good. Cransoon was attempting a zero cycle with the hook dash at the beginning of the fight. Didn't manage to pull it off. Does get a pretty nice little sequence there, and will finish off Argus with the one cycle strategy here. Looks like he's going to go for the fast kill, but doesn't get it. He's just going to go for the, I don't know, what do you call that? The layup, the alley-oop style, the spin cycle Argus. I haven't seen that before. Meanwhile, Zam did not have much luck with the fairy, apparently taking some damage before this fight. He's going to try and use the lag frames from the explosions to try and line up the rest of these slashes, because this is very tight. He cannot take any hugs from these Cold Stare eyeballs. Can take one ice shot, though. Oh, goodness. Zam getting within inches. Zam, I'm going to have a heart attack, man. Pulls it off, though. Alright, so our runners are over the most punishing deaths of the entire run. The worst place that they can die at this point is probably right before Trinex or on Trinex if they don't get the safety door, or potentially Ganon's Tower at Agon M2. Cransoon pulling off a really nice spin speed to get a bird dash there. That's a small time save, but if you can get it, it looks cool and it saves you some time. We may see a sword climb out of him here as well. I think he did one just there. When you have that hook shot, you can do an item dash with a sword outstretched, and you climb stairs very fast. Well, with Zam having his mini heart attack out of the way, looks like his next destination will be... He's heading to Swamp. Alright, so he needs a little bit of a breather after that one, and I don't blame him. Cransoon, in the meantime, the reason he's heading up to Death Mountain is to pick up the Ether Medallion. He's heading to Misery Mire next, which should be his last dungeon before Turtle Rock, so he's on a pretty good pace here. Possibly outside of his PB, though. I'm going to double-check his stream for that. Taking a look at Cransoon's splits, he's about 55 seconds behind his personal best leaving Swamp. That's not an insurmountable gap, though. With a good Mire, T-Rock, and GT, there's plenty of time that he could save here. Potentially on PB watch for Cransoon. In the meantime, it looks like, based on the splits I see on Zam's screen, I believe that his PB has been more recent than what we have listed on Zelda, or on our speedruns. .com leaderboard. His splits show a PB of 147.21, and he is currently a second, or just over a second, ahead of his current personal best. He's had 3 golds this race. This is impressive so far, run out of him. If that PB split is correct, though, this could be a much tighter race than I may have originally anticipated. Cransoon, our first runner to enter Misery Mire, he is on a pretty good pace. I don't know if we're going to see that bird toss out of him today, but who knows? The man may love memes. The kick is up, and the bird toss is good. Cransoon trying to be #1 in our hearts over here. Well, I don't know if it's going to help him with any RNG throughout the rest of this. He did have a little bit of trouble here in Mire 2, but it will help him in the eyes of our hearts. So, Cransoon, shout-outs to you on that one. Cransoon opting to grab that first key in there. That's usually the best one to grab. He's going to make his way to grab the big key, a little bit of a loop here. Generally speaking, when you're running this game, if you're at kind of like the higher levels, I would say that Cransoon is at, closer to 130 or so, you usually have about 20 to 21 minutes left as you cross these torches here in Mire. So at the moment, it appears we may have a shot at a 130 run here, though it may be pretty tight. We might need to see some golds out of Cransoon to make that happen. You also get to notice, if you just saw it on Cransoon's screen, he was able to do a fire rod through a block, and you might be thinking, hacks, what did he just do? As it turns out, when you're pushing a block in this game, for a brief moment it turns into a sprite which you can actually, well, it has no collision, in the sense that, like, you know, if you were to use an ancilla or, you know, a fire rod or something through it, it's gonna pass right through. So this allows us to use a hook shot through a block later on in Gan's Tower, actually. In this situation, allows us to save quite a bit of time pushing those blocks, though. Cransoon's going to pick up the Cane of Samaria here. We're going to have a little bit of use of this in this run. We'll have one use of it in this dungeon. Possibly two, depending on if we have a really awesome cane dash. I think Cransoon will go for it. We're also going to use this in Turtle Rock to a great extent, and once or twice in Ganon's Tower to save ourselves a couple of screens. So Math Girl asking a really good question in chat about how in the world is world record like 123 something, and that's a fantastic question. Cransoon did also have 2 blue balls with Aghanim. That's a time loss there. The movement, though, like, you know, when we talked about pumping early on in the run, you can save a pretty crazy amount of time just from doing that. Not only that, but, you know, perfect boss fights, as JD is mentioning in chat. Parisian being, you know, pretty wise about everybody losing frames, because let's be real here, there's a million frames you can lose in this game. Well, actually, I don't know if there's a million frames in the run. Math Girl, you may have a better sense of what the frames per second over the course of an hour and a half means, but meanwhile, though, Zam making his way to the back half of Swamp Palace. Cransoon is rapidly approaching Vitru's fight. This is an interesting fight to watch. I believe both of our runners will take the damage boost strats here. To do the fight here, we're going to do some sword spins. Part of these sword spins will allow us to get a lot of damage in on these eyeballs without taking a lot of damage ourselves, because you only take 1 damage from the poisonous goo on the ground. This also gives us invincibility frames. Cransoon had some really bad luck there, though, and bumped into one of those eyeballs. He's got to watch his behind here, because we're in some peril. Wow, that lightning was close, but with 8 arrows, he's going to finish this off no problems. Zam, in the meantime, finishing off the Argus fight. We'll have to just get a couple of spin slashes, possibly a fire rod. Looks like he's going for the 2 spin slash strategy. Fricker and Chad making a good point. Yeah, pumping only saves about 10 seconds total if you do it optimally. That being said, though, there are some ways you can optimize movements. You can slide through certain screens a little faster if you hit some early cycles. A combination of that and those perfect boss fights, that's exactly where the world record comes from. I highly encourage you to watch it. It's a really fun run to see. Oh, Parisian, thank you. I was looking at the Twitch page. My bad. All right, so I'm behind by a boss text here. Cransoon's leaving Misery Mire and is making his way to Turtle Rock. Cransoon having a little bit of difficulty with the Waffle House drive-through, as we like to call it, getting dead rocked to all hell there. Does manage to emerge from it, though. And we got some math in the chat. Appreciate you guys looking out for me. So 1/3 of a million. So, you know, I don't know. But in the meantime, both of our runners almost high-fiving. They're probably like a far-fiving. Zam on his way to pick up the Ether Medallion, and Cransoon heading the opposite direction, gonna go to Turtle Rock. Looks like Zam is trying to find some health drops or a fairy drop. They're very common in those bushes right around that warp portal. In the meantime, Cransoon here is going to do a hook dash to try to do some fast pegs here. Having a little bit of difficulty with the portal, no problem though. Now the real question, chat, is this a Quake Dash? If this is a Quake Dash or a Medallion Dash, he will have a quick hop off the ledge and it'll also look really sweet. But I mean, it only saves a couple frames. And he gets the Quake Dash. Moving on forward, looks like Zam is picking up his Ice Rod. I don't recall Cransoon picking up his, but I must have just missed it where he did in the split. And Cransoon is going to do a hover to enter Turtle Rock. What a madman. Folks, you saw it here first. Cransoon trying to upstage Scrivo on the attempt to get to Trinex with his hover. What a crazy man. If I thought I was speechless before, I'm just watching, hoping, praying. Well, Parisian, I was looking at the reason why I said that was a Quake Dash was because he did get the quick hop immediately. Are you saying that like the faster walking animation, it doesn't count as that kind of dash? I could be entirely wrong. That's why I'm asking for clarification. But Zam here, killing the bird, does not like bird toss, unfortunately. Cransoon eventually electing to just preserve the health, for good reason, too. It's going to make it hard to do a damage boost here with these rollers. I believe those will kill him. Also, sorry, chat, for starting a math conversation. Oh, okay, that's what I thought, Parisian, but I thought that he had pulled it off anyway, just didn't get the actual super speed out of it. No worries, though. I mean, he does get the quick hop or the fast ledge anyway, but Cransoon gets the clutch fairy drop. That's a 50-50 chance if he did everything right with those prize packs earlier, so he did really well to get it there, and manages to avoid damage in the chop room as well. Very good. Meanwhile, looks like Zam is ready to go grab the big key out of Misery Mire. All in all, if his current PB is a 147, he's in a pretty decent pace right now. This could very well PB for him by quite a lot. Zam having a very good torch room there, having no problems walking through that. We get the longest wall reveal cutscene in the game. Probably taking advantage of that to grab something to drink. Cransoon on the other side, though, having grabbed the big key, is going to work his way back through so we can head to the back half. We will almost certainly see a laser bridge skip out of him. Whether or not we see the safety door is another question, but at this level of running, I have to imagine both of these runners are either going to take it to guarantee themselves from not having to worry about it later, or in all likelihood, probably going to skip it just because they don't need to use it. Cransoon has skipped the mirror shield. Good on him. Hopefully we get to see no damage out of this roller room here. Taking good advantage of the invincibility frames and the Samaria block twice. Very clean room. Looks like Zam now has the Cane of Samaria. We're going to have a slight spike damage boost here to get another key. And with that, we'll make our way to the back half of Misery Mire to take on Vitreous. This will be fun to see. Now, Zam has shown pretty good competence with everything so far. I mean, I'm seeing pretty high-level play techniques. I mean, having a little bit of difficulty with some of the bosses, but all in all, this has been a pretty good run out of Zam. I'm excited to see what kind of PB we can get out of this, because I'm pretty certain that's going to happen with this run. We'll call it the commentator's blessing. There's no curse in this channel. Just to be clear, though, he did gold that swamp by 56 seconds. Good lord. Right now, just about 57 seconds ahead of PB. Cransoon is about 30 seconds, maybe about a minute behind right now. Yeah, about a minute behind his PB right now. Cransoon going for yet another hover. Wow. I think he wants to upstage you, Scrivo, if you're watching. I'm just going to try and be silent on this. But in the meantime, Zam is heading into the Vitreous fight. Here in Vitreous, like we said before, we want to take those damage boosts and take advantage of the fact that we only take 1 damage for standing in that goo, because those eyeballs, if we make contact, do 4. The optimal way gets us 0 cycles, which is 0 lightning attacks. We had 1 cycle out of Zam. Very good fight. Cransoon, in the meantime, is doing backdoor strats on Trinex, getting a very fast 1 cycle. And gets a very fast phase 2. All right, Cransoon, with that, we'll move on to Ganon's Tower, and Zam is following right behind him, heading into Turtle Rock next. However, we do get an opportunity to see Zelda talking to Zelda on Cransoon's screen. That's right, folks. The protagonist of the game and the princess. Still trying to figure out where the right application of your princesses and another crystal is, but if any of you guys come up with some good ones, let me know. I believe Zam has already grabbed the ice rod, so there should be just a straight shot to Turtle Rock from here. Now, I gotta say, I'm really impressed with what Zam has pulled off in this run, and apparently based on the splits recently, we walked into this tournament with a over 2-hour, 10-minute time, and has clearly shaved that down to about 1 hour and 45, so I'm floored by that. That's a huge turnaround in just a few weeks. Had a little bit of a mishap there with a ledge. Spin speed, if you touch a ledge or even press in the direction of that ledge, it'll automatically quick hop. So there's a couple of places where you can lose a lot of time from that. A good example is the spin speed after Desert 1, going into Desert 2. If you even touch that ledge at all, you're wasting a lot of time. It's a trick generally reserved for madmen and madwomen. Well, so in terms of the race, there's a number of things that can still change. Cransoon could have some rough luck. Having any kind of death in this dungeon will eat up a lot of time, particularly if he's in the gauntlet. Zam could pull this off, though. If Zam can get a really good Turtle Rock and doesn't have a death in Ganon's Tower, that's going to be his best hope to catch up here. But Cransoon is on a bit of a tear here. Cransoon, unfortunately, hitting 2 switches at once with that boomerang. That's rough. I don't think I actually see that too often. I think the game's calling you out on your hovers, Cransoon. You got to watch out for that. Another thing we got to see on Cransoon's screen just now was a great use of hookshot. We'll see another one out of Zam there, using it to grab the torch to fall down to get through the door faster. Cransoon, however, is going to use the hookshot in that fire bar room to avoid some damage. Zam trying it with the rollers there with no success. The way it works is only while you're in the hookshot animation is Link completely immune from just about anything. If you hit an object with the hookshot, though, that will shorten that amount of time. So that's why Zam took a hit there from the rollers. However, our runners are doing pretty well with health so far. Zam does still have a good shot at getting that fairy drop. I don't believe we've lost that prize pack. Unfortunately, doesn't get it. Meanwhile, as Zam tries to get through the chomp room, having a little bit of difficulty with the pegs. Cransoon did really well through the Ice Armos fight, so both of these runners through some relatively difficult screens. The Ice Armos can be a bit of a challenge, particularly if you run out of arrows. Cransoon wisely picking up the 10-pack there. Due to not getting that fairy drop earlier, looks like Zam is preparing to use that powder to get a full reheal after they pick up the big key here. Couldn't ask for a better timing for it either. Meanwhile, Cransoon is rushing very quickly through the rest of the dungeon here. He's approaching Gauntlet pretty quick. Here in Ganon Ball Z, opting to take the slow stroll route. Skipping the fairies. Looks like he's trying to make up as much time as possible. It might be a little bit narrow to catch up to his PB at this point. But you never know. Some people have fantastic gauntlets. Zam's having a little bit of a pokey party. This room is a very frustrating room to get through. If you're having difficulties with it like I have, I honestly just recommend picking up the fire rod to kill those pokies, because the time you would have lost there is not going to kill you much compared to, you know, getting a magic refill later on that doesn't cost you any time. Meanwhile, Cransoon getting through the ice rooms marginally well, only taking 4 hearts of damage. About to attempt a quick kill on Lamolis 2. Got a little unlucky with the short hop on the first spawn, though. Wraps it up in one cycle, or in the second cycle, regardless. Zam is in the Samaria Dark Room. There's a good opportunity to use Hookshot here if you're really worried about your health. With 2 hearts left, that may become a concern, but it looks like we should get through no problems. This may influence whether or not Zam decides to take the safety door. Cransoon with some excellent Samaria strats to get through those Wizrobe rooms. And it looks like Zam did default to the safety door. Definitely a wise strategy. You don't want to mess that up. Cransoon has a little bit of difficulty here with the torch room. I think he's lamenting his lack of magic here, having to wait out the timer to make sure that he doesn't run out before the end of the room. Definitely a wise choice, though. You don't want to mess that one up. Particularly with little magic. That would have been a gigantic time loss. With these torches being done, he has punched his ticket to go fight Moldorm 2. We're going to get one more bomb in the wall here. And in the meantime, Zam here is just making his way through the switch puzzle. Is not opting to take any kind of health. Doesn't have the magic to do so, so it looks like we're going to have a 2-heart Trinex attempt. This will be pretty narrow. In the meantime, Cransoon just under full health. Doesn't bother with the fairy. Zam, though, getting a perfect pokey drop. Couldn't ask for a better opportunity. Cransoon with the hover attempt on Moldorm 2 and slipping off the edge. That's rough. Props to you for trying it, though. Good lord. Claymore in chat pointing out correctly that Cransoon, when he did the torch room, did avoid a soft lock by waiting. If you go up the stairs at the same time that the room before you closes, you'll actually despawn every sprite in the tower, which is terrible. Meanwhile, Zam is doing valiantly in this Trinex fight. Looks to have taken a shot or two of damage and has one heart left. Needs to be very careful to finish this up. At the edge of my seat over here. With that, Zam will advance to Ganon's tower. Made me a little nervous there, but Cransoon is going to make a fourth attempt on the hover, it looks like, or instead is going to try to lure Moldorm to the other side to not take the damage. I think we're just trying to make Ganon a little bit easier at this point, but having a little bit of frustration with the Moldorm fight, opts to kill him just to prevent the issues. Still going for the hover anyway, and gets it. Wow. Parisian player, I don't know who would ever do the Ganon's Tower despawn. That must be a really terrible thing to have happen to a person. Can't imagine it. Cransoon getting a good dash through the mini Hellway. And Claymore pointed out in chat, redeemed, absolutely. If you were worrying for whether or not we were going to get the the hover in this run, you just got it. It was verified. It's valid. Hover strats confirmed. Well, Mr. Big T Anderson, you may also want to consider that Cransoon does have the stream open. We are allowed to watch our competitors race with us. He may know he has a bit of a lead here. Didn't hurt too much to try because, I mean, Cransoon's probably practiced Ganon a lot. Oh, I thought you meant the the hover. You meant the despawn. Yeah, that's really not something you want to have happen more than once. Once it's happened to you once, you feel like you hate yourself for eternity over it. I would feel terrible if it was a PB run. If it wasn't a PB run, I'd be like, okay, fine, fine. Well, that was a very fast Aghanim fight with some really easy reflections. Cransoon making fast work of that. We'll now walk into the Ganon fight. Just to briefly explain this fight, Ganon has 4 phases. Depending on the level of your sword, you'll do a certain amount of damage per slash. We need to do 12 hits to Ganon in order to advance to the next phase. So spin slashes are going to count for double in that regard. If we do this optimally, we'll get 1 cycle for each phase. Here in the second phase, he's going to spin some fire bats, which will then track Link to some extent. We need to do 12 slashes again here. We got the warp, which means we moved on to phase 3. Next, he is going to do a circular pattern of fire bats if we don't slash him fast enough. This phase only takes 1 hit per attack. Once we've destroyed all the floor, we'll move to phase 4, where we have to do 12 sword spins in order to finish off Ganon. It's going to require some pretty precise timing, and hopefully we'll get the torch glitch as well. We'll see Cransoon attempt to execute this here. He's going to try to get the free sword spin and then do a fire rod. Wow, he gets it! So that's a pretty narrow window. You have to light the left torch before you light the right torch, and if you pull that off, the right torch will never go out. This is going to save him a lot of magic so that he can then use the fire rod to line up triples for each cycle. Great time save. Meanwhile, Zam is about to approach the Ice Armos fight on a great PB pace right now. Just to give a frame of reference, folks, walking out of Turtle Rock, RNG Zam was ahead by 1 minute and 41 seconds. With that very fast Ice Armos kill, very well done. Cransoon has finished Ganon and has finished up the race, so Cransoon is going to finish with a official SRTV time of 1 hour, 35 minutes, and 11 seconds. Doing a fantastic job in this race. We'll see if we can race him and get him into the voice channel for a interview, pending just a moment. In the meantime, everybody please cheer on Zam as Zam takes the attempt at Ganon's Tower, Aghanim 2, and of course Ganon, opting for red mail to secure this PB, I think. Zam is a little low on health leaving the Mimic rooms. We're going to have to make sure we don't take too much damage here. With the red mail, it should be a lot easier, but all the same, a death is costly here in Ganon's Tower. It doesn't matter how you get it. And it appears we are joined by Cransoon. GG, Cransoon. Fantastic race.
Hello, thank you.
I don't
know if fantastic is the word I would use to describe that, but you know.
I mean, come on, there are so many hover attempts.
Yeah, I just wish any more of them had been successful. Like, I was really just hoping for that first one in Turtle Rock to actually do something, but then it didn't. And then I was like, let me see how far I can get off of, you know, in the Trinex hover. And then that wasn't happening. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not leaving this Moldorm 2 room until I get this hover. So
it would seem that some people in this tournament are hell-bent on making sure that we do have that hover happen at least once in a tournament race.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've done it every single tournament race so far. Like, I've gotten it in all 3 races, so, like, I wasn't going to break my streak now.
Wait, do you mean the Trinex hover or the?
No, the Trinex hover. No, the Moldorm 2 hover. I've gotten the Trinex hover once, and then I fell immediately before completing it another time. But both of those attempts were like down, which it's weird. Maybe it's a mental thing, but for me, hovering feels so much more difficult if it's not down. It's kind of weird.
Because I mean, you practice it the most from Moldorm 2. I mean, it makes the most sense to, you know, work on it there.
Exactly, yeah. That's pretty much it.
I have to think that you have to hold the controller kind of strangely to do the hover.
You do, yeah. Which is one reason why sometimes I would, like, pause before I start my hover or something, but I don't know. Also, I don't know if people caught this, but that torch glitch, oh my god.
Yeah, that was like frame perfect. You shot across the room.
I went for that spin, and I was like, I'm forgetting something, aren't I? And I just, you know, muscle memory paused to go to Fire Rod, and I'm like, wait, I needed to get in position for torch glitch. Uh-oh. And so I just sat there thinking for a second, and I was like, okay, I can make this work. I can make this work. And just YOLO'd it, and it worked, but that was a thing.
Well, you know, overall, across this race, I mean, Zam had an unfortunate death in Eastern Palace. That's pretty much what put Zam behind from the beginning. But overall, a great run from Zam as well. I'm sure you're probably watching alongside everybody. Right now, Zam's PB on splits is 147. We're looking at 40 right now, so
wow, he's on, like, significant PB pace then.
Yeah, it seems like, you know, we have a pretty good shot out of here. So I'm thinking that, you know, the influence of having you on this, you know, race has been clearly beneficial to Zam. Zam's been working hard for this.
Yeah, definitely. That's huge PB pace, man.
But I do also want to talk about your group. So I believe this is what you needed in order to kind of secure your advancement. I'm looking at the challenge page. This is putting you at 2-1, and yes, so both Jerby and Zam will have 1 and 2 if Zam does win another race. But he's definitely down to 2 losses, so that should put you secure to proceed. Is that right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Well, hey, that's exciting to see, and I believe this is your last match of the group stage. Ooh, Zam taking a fall to Moldorm 2. That's rough.
Oh, I forgot you have the restream up. I was like, what are you talking about? He just walked in Moldorm 2. Yeah, I don't know. I'm very interested to see what my brackets end up looking like. I think we're going to brackets next, if I'm not mistaken. So,
yeah, by the looks of things, we should be finishing up this group pretty soon. I know that we wanted to have a little bit of a delay anyway, so I believe we'll be starting the bracket around the beginning of the next month. Though we may end up getting it started sooner. I don't know. From the looks of things, though, I think logistically it works best that way.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Like one of the reasons why I was kind of just having fun with this run is like that's one of the reasons I watch the restream, so I can see just sort of where I am in relation to my opponent and everything. How much, you know, fun I can have as far as like, oh, this is a silly, unoptimal strat, but it's something I'm gonna go for just because whatever. Or like, oh, my opponent is like really close to me, or, you know, ahead of me, I'm behind, so I need to like actually really go hard on the optimal strats and everything. So
that makes sense though, because I mean you get to kind of see, you know, some of your backups as well, some things that you wouldn't necessarily do.
Yeah, for sure. Like I don't know. And then also, like, for example, like the cold stare fight, like where can I use powder and stuff like that. Like going into the cold stare fight, I had, I think it was like 4 hearts or something. Like and so I was like, you know what? I've got enough wiggle room here. I'm just gonna go powder the fairy. But if I was like synced with my opponent, I might not have done that. You know.
Right, I'm one to rely on sword beam strats myself. With that though, Zam does enter Ganon, so we are currently, good lord, I didn't check his split, but he is still very ahead of his PB. 147.21 is what his splits show, so he could still pull off a several-minute PB here. He gets good RNG for the second phase. He gets 1 so far. Can we get a 1-and-1 out of him? It looks like he is in phase 3. We got a nice 1-and-1 out of him, so he's got a great chance at a fantastic split here. Yeah, we had the wrong impression about Zam's personal best because his leaderboard personal best is over 2 hours, not the 147 he has in his splits.
Oh wow, okay, yeah. I was wondering, I didn't know what his SRC name was, so I looked, you know, I looked it up on speedrun.com and just Control F'd Zam and found like 3 different people, and I was like, I have no idea which person this is.
His is listed as RNG Zam.
RNG Zam, okay. Yeah, so I honestly kind of didn't know what to expect coming into this race. It's another reason why I was pretty closely watching the restream and everything.
But it definitely is one of the benefits we have over other tournaments. We actually can watch our opponents while we're running.
Yeah, it's kind of a nice relief compared to like the randomizer tournament, where it's very strict, like you cannot be watching the restream at all, or else, you know, or be in chat or anything, because if you do, that is 100% cheating, and you'll get disqualified. So it's kind of nice to be able to participate in chat a little bit, answer questions people have as the run happens.
And it was fun to get a couple of opportunities to kind of like preview things that the chat didn't get to see until afterwards, but you were already talking about it. That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Zam here is finished up with Ganon. He's going to finish up his timer a little after 100 or 145. Let's we'll see in a moment what his official time is, but that's going to be a PB for him, guaranteed. With that, RNG Zam is going to finish the race with an official SRTV time of 1 hour, 45 minutes, and 12 seconds. GG.
Wow, on his splits, I'm just looking at his splits right now, and he golded Hera, Aghanim, or Agatower, Skullwood, Swamp, Mire, Turtle Rock, and Ganon. That is a really, really good, it's a really good run. Jeez.
When I looked at the leaderboard time that was posted, I mean, this was maybe like 3 weeks ago, so Zam has been really hammering away at this game. I mean, that's a huge time save over the course of just a few weeks. We're going to see if we can get him into the chat for a interview. I'm sure he's probably celebrating right now. It's got to feel amazing. So if I can get him an invite. But yeah, so Cransoon, you're gonna have the brackets coming up. I believe you're in the randomizer tournament. Is that right?
I am kind of, because I was in the top 8 of the main tournament last time. I am not. Yeah, I'm automatically in brackets for that. So I am not currently participating in the Swiss round, but I will be joining after the Swiss is over and when we start brackets.
That's got to feel a little bit like standing outside a candy store watching everybody enjoy the candy.
Yeah, I like, honestly, yeah, on paper I was like, yeah, that's great. I get to skip this whole section, and then like I kind of looked at it and I was like, oh, everybody's doing all their tournament races. Like I kind of miss this. Like I kind of want to do more of this. I kind of wish I was in the Swiss. Especially because it's going to be like once the bracket stage starts, everybody else who's been in Swiss is going to be, you know, 4 to 6 weeks deep on tournament races, and it's going to be my first time doing a tournament match, like a 1v1 rando, since the last tournament, basically, because I didn't do the Key Sanity, so that'll be interesting.
Let's go. Hello, Zam. See that. GG, Zam. We're joined by Zam, who just, I believe, PB'd. Is that right?
Yeah. PB by like 2 minutes.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, that's huge. Congrats, dude.
I'm at the point where PBs are pretty huge and pretty free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those days, those are like, that's some of the most fun I have with speed games, is that phase of like, you've learned it and you're just getting better and better every day and just making these huge PBs.
Yeah, like half of these splits are gold, I think. More than half?
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, that's so many gold splits.
Oh, hey, it speaks to putting a lot of work into it. I mean, from what I could tell, I think you just started running this game within the last month or two, is that right?
Yeah, I'd never even finished the game before, like a month ago.
Wow, that's crazy.
Holy smokes.
I didn't realize that you were that new to the game. Congrats. That's huge progress in such a short time. Holy crap.
Yeah, I saw the tournament coming up and like all the Link to the Past stuff on speed gaming like all the time. I was like, well, I may as well learn it and then I can kind of have some context for what's going on these channels all the time. Well, it's pretty fun actually. So I'm glad I joined.
A fantastic PB. I mean, I have to imagine you're still going to keep running the game, right?
Yeah, I have at least one more match, and after that, I think I'll stick with the game for a bit, because I'm not too satisfied with this as a PB time. At the very least, I want a deathless run, you know?
It's going to be really exciting to see, you know, how that last match turns out, because, I mean, for the time turnover that you've had, you already have that match scheduled?
Yeah, it's for Sunday at the same time as today.
Oh boy, okay, so there's a pretty fast turnaround. I get the feeling you might shave another couple minutes off by then.
Yeah, hopefully.
Well, folks, it was very fun to watch and commentate this race. Appreciate you guys putting this on for us. I also want to make a couple shout-outs real quick. Shout-outs to the Speed Gaming crew for putting on this you know, race and for supporting all this stuff. This is a great time for me to let you guys know you should follow these runners. I'm going to post a quick link in the chat. They have put on a great show for you. Please give them a follow. Show them some support. Clearly, you're going to see great things out of both Cransoon and Zam, whether it's this tournament or just on their channels in general. Highly recommend checking that out. Want to open up the floor to you guys. You guys have any other final remarks to make about this race?
I wish Skull Woods hadn't happened the way it did.
What happened in Skull Woods? Like,
I got
something happened because I finished Turtle Rock and then looked over and was like, why isn't my opponent done yet?
Well, Skullwoods, I fell into the moth fight, and then the hand grabbed me because my hitbox was still active, and so I went from being 30 seconds ahead of my PB and being on like sub 130 pace to being behind. So then from that point on, I just kind of memed the rest of the run and just kind of didn't care. So I was trying to do hovers in Turtle Rock and Ganon's Tower and stuff like that, just kind of having fun with it. But.
Alright, yeah, that sounds cool.
Somewhere, somehow, EOD Tex is probably laughing about version number.
Oh,
where
yeah.
that floor master can't grab you in the pit. Also, Zam, do you have any other closing remarks to make about the run?
Well, if you wish Skullwoods didn't happen, I wish Eastern and Palace of Darkness didn't happen. Those are the places that I beefed it really hard.
That's a common sentiment, I feel.
With that being said, I mean, 2 deaths and still getting 145. Wow. You're going to have some pretty great PBs coming up ahead. Well, folks, I think that's going to wrap it up. We will probably have other things going on here in the Speed Gaming family and networks. I do want to call quick attention to the remaining matches on our schedule. Here on Speed Gaming 3, we will have another match at 8 p.m. with Maniacal and TGH. Also at 8 p.m. on Speed Gaming 1, or the primary channel, we'll have a fantastic quad being commentated by Emma and Josh with TB Ham and Oglib. And their counter race will also be Runner Watcher and Trogdor, so that'd be exciting to see. Folks, been fun to commentate. My name is Udaimonistic. This is Speed Gaming. Stay tuned. There is a lot more racing to be seen. This tournament is just heating up. Thanks again, folks.